Right, I'm going to just give you a quick demo on editing a blog post, and I want to show you why it's not a good idea to post by pasting your copy from Microsoft Word into WordPress. I also want to explain the difference between this visual editor here and the text editor, which looks like this. Most people use the visual editor because it's a bit more user-friendly. It's a bit more like traditional editors that we might have used, like Word, and you can really see what's going on. I prefer, and I think a lot of people prefer to use the text editor because it ensures that you don't miss something that might actually be harming your content. So this post is one that we've done in the past at Orca Scuba, and I'm not sure how this has been put together. It doesn't actually look like it's definitely been pasted from Word. There are a few things here that I'm not quite sure how they've happened, but either way, the important thing is that the post here looks fine. If I view the post on the page, it also looks fine, nice and neat. There's some nice formatting, there's some italics here, there's some subheadings. So there's nothing wrong with it from an aesthetic point of view, and it's not a deal breaker by any means. But if we want our posts to do more than just work for our subscribers, then we need them to be found by the search engines. And that means that we need to make our posts as SEO friendly as possible. So what I mean by that is we have people who sign up to our blog, and every time we post a new article, they get an email notification that there's a new article to read. We can also share it in our Facebook as a Facebook post, Twitter, whatever, Instagram. We can link back to it. But ideally, as we put our content out there, we want the search engines to pick it up and for people to find it. So perhaps somebody is going to be searching for Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and ideally we'd like them to find our article, because every eyeball that we get onto our blog is a potential customer, ultimately, somebody who might find out about our company, read about what we do, want to get involved. So I know that's pretty obvious, but let me just demonstrate why I'm discussing this. So I suspect that this article has been put in via the visual editor, which is fine. But if we go to the text editor, you can see that this is actually looking quite complicated. And it will look a bit complicated anyway, because there are certain styling tools in here that we need. But there's also a lot of stuff in here that we don't need. And I suspect that that's what's happened by pasting this content in from another source, and maybe that was Microsoft Word. So for example, at the beginning of this article, we've just got a bit of text and an image. But if we look at the text editor, this doesn't start with a bit of text. It starts with this weird formatting code. And actually, I know that we don't need this. Anything that's just a normal bit of text, a paragraph, we don't need any formatting around. And the way that these tags work is if you want to format a bit of text in a certain way using the text editor, then you need to put something before the text that you want to affect and after it, which is this little P here. So let me just give you an example. I'm just going to remove this because this doesn't actually do anything in this case. I'm also going to remove this more because we don't want that. And I'm going to update it. And then we're going to have a quick look at the post. And that really shouldn't have made any visual difference. So we've got the header and we've got this introductory text. So that's fine. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So if I go back to the editor, I'm going to demonstrate how I make this look different. It's not really any different to using the visual editor, but instead of me highlighting it and clicking bold and this text immediately appearing bold, what it does is it puts a strong tag before the text and after it. And if I update that, and look at the post, you'll see that what was normal text is now bold. And there it is. Okay, so that's a very simplistic explanation of how these tags work. And to be honest, it is pretty simple once you get used to it. So I'm going to remove that because we don't want that text to be bold. Here we've got an image. And images do look like this when you put them in and you're looking at the text editor. They start with this image class equals. That's always there. And it ends with this little symbol here, which is basically closing this little symbol here. In this case, we have a caption, and the caption is the source being Wikimedia, and there's a link to the Wikimedia page, which is good practice. That's brilliant. Very happy with that. But we also had this styling tag, which we don't want. So I'm going to remove that and just leave the image. And if I take out the first piece, I have to take out the second piece as well. So I'm removing the H6. Now, if I normally post from Word, this subtitle here would be a bold subtitle. But for some reason, in this case, it's inserted H4 style equals text align center, which has actually given us a centered subtitle, which is fine. And actually the fact that it says H4 is better than it saying strong, because well, I'll explain that in 2 seconds. Let's just have a look at it and see how it looks. So our subtitle here is centered. Now we want all our posts to look the same, and actually we want our subtitles always to be H2 tags. We don't want them to be centered. That's just the way that our style works. So if I go back and edit this, I have actually demonstrated this in another video, but all I'm going to do is remove this style and change this H4 to an H2, and likewise here. So that's our subtitle. H2 opens it, /H2 closes it. I'm going to update that, and we'll have a look at the post, and you'll see that that is now a properly formatted subtitle. And the reason it's important that it's an H2 is that Google actually uses the header tags to work out what the content is about. So this is what our subtitles should look like, and this is what the subtitles currently look like. Whether you like that or not, okay, that can be an argument for another day, but this is how they need to look at the moment, and this is what our style is on the blog. So when I say Google uses the header tags to find out what the article is about, headers are very important in a blog article. This is your main header, and that's your H1 tag, which basically means it's the top level header. So the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is our H1 tag. Google will read that, and it will say this article is about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It will then use the H2 tags to understand what about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch this article is talking about. So if this was just a bold bit of text, it would ignore it. It would just see it as part of the text. But the fact that this is now an H2, Google knows H1 Great Pacific Garbage Patch, H2 what is a gyre, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, aka GP. That's actually really good for SEO. So that's what we want to do throughout the article, and I'm going to go through and do this. It's going to take a bit of time, but it's probably worth sticking with, just so you get comfortable with how this works. Because really, when you're posting an article, even if you're using the visual editor, which is fine, and I've demonstrated that before, somebody, ideally you, will click on the text editor afterwards and just make sure that there's no weird formatting. So for example, this here, I want that to go, and if I remove the start, I need to remove the finish. So now you see that's very simple. We've got a H2 subheading, and then we've got text. We also got a spelling correction here. Centre is the American spelling. We use the British spelling at Orca Scuba. So if you do spot something like that, I'd prefer to keep things uniform. Here's another subheader. So I'm going to change this to a H2 tag. H2. AKA needs another full stop. I remove the formatting from around the text. I can see there's a spelling corrector here, microplastics. I believe that that is a real word, so I'm going to leave that. This is an H2 as well. And actually this is a good opportunity for me to optimize for SEO. So who found it is not a very SEO friendly subtitle, but who found the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is. So I can just paste that in. And then we've got a nice phrase that somebody might somewhere type into a search engine, and they might, if we're lucky, they might find this article. Okay, so we've got another image here. So I'm going to remove that bit of centering formatting because, as I said before, we don't need that. And that's the end of the image tag. I like to separate these things so I can see it clearly. So you've got header, image, and then text. I need to remove the H6 because that's the end of the what was up here, the H6 formatting. But this A here is actually part of this link. So all we've done here, we've taken a Wikimedia page or Wikipedia page here, which I can actually cut this out. I'm going to remove this, but I'm going to keep it in my clipboard so I can put it back in. I'm just going to show you how that works as a link. So this is just a bit of text. Read how a consignment of rubber duckies lost at sea helped scientists understand how ocean gyres worked. I'm actually, rather than just linking on the here, I'm going to link this whole thing. Read how a consignment of rubber duckies lost at sea helped scientists understand how ocean gyres worked. So I'm going to link that whole sentence to that page that I've got on my clipboard. So I highlight the text I want to link, click on link. I can post my URL here, paste my URL here. There it is. And because we're linking to a third-party site, we're sending people off to a different website. I'm going to open the link in a new tab. If I don't do that, the tab will just redirect from the Orca Scuba blog to the Wikipedia page, and then we've lost that person. The only way they get back to Orca is to press the back button. Whereas if we open the link in a new tab, they'll still have this blog page open, and this Wikipedia page will open in a new tab. Okay, so I have just linked, and if you look here, here is the link, here is the URL. That's the first part of the code. Here is the text that's being linked, and here's the second part. Okay, so we can move on. Here's a bit more alignment formatting. I'm going to remove that and remove the second part. Removing this again and this. Here you see this is actually italic, but I think we can do this a different way. So if I see that this is italic, which is the EM, and I can demonstrate that by removing these tags, highlighting the text, clicking the I, and it puts them back in. But let me just update this, and I'll show you how that's looking. I've a bit of a stickler for things looking nice, and if I think we can make it look better, then I think it's worth doing. I think it makes blogs easier to read, or any article really easier to read. So at the moment, this is actually looking quite nice. Because these are H2 tags, it's putting a nice spacing around it. Here's the link that we just put in. And here is the section that we've just been talking about. So you're probably wondering who found the GBGP, especially because it is not a giant patch of garbage. So this is actually a quote, this section, by Captain Charles Moore. But in my eyes, just going to italic isn't that clear that that's become a quote. So I'm going to make this actually a quote and make it stand out a bit better. So I'm going to go back to Edit Post. I'm going to scroll down to the section that we've just been looking at, which is here. I'm going to remove all of these italic links. That's weird. But I'm going to remove all of it. I'm going to remove this part as well. Okay, so I've taken away every single part of the italic text as far as I can tell. And this is the chap who we're quoting. And this is the start of his quote. Here is the block quote tag. If I click that, that is going to put this whole section into a slightly different format to make it stand out. Let me click update. And then we view posts, see what we've done. I'm going to scroll back down to that section, and here we go. Here is our block quote. Now, for some reason, that text there is larger than that text, which to my eye looks a bit weird. I don't know why that's done that, and there's nothing in the text to show me, but I'll fix that somehow, even if I have to talk to the developers. But the important thing here is that our quote is differentiated by this block quote symbol. And if I want, because this is Captain Charles Moore who is giving the block quote, and this is actually what he's saying, I can make this part italic to differentiate that from that, which I will do. Perhaps it's nitpicking, but I think it just makes the whole thing look a little bit more appealing. So if I just highlight this, italic, and I'm going to make this bold. Update, and then let's see how we're doing on there. View post. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go back to these subheaders and the rest of the text. I'm just going to have a quick look at what might be making this text larger. A lot of this stuff is, for me at least, is trial and error, and you can always go back if you're not sure what's happened. Yeah, so there's nothing here that seems to suggest that that should be formatted differently. I'm just going to paste it in here to see if there's something about this text that is making it look larger. and then I'll move it back. Yeah. So whatever it is, it's the first paragraph that for some reason is showing up larger. Maybe that's something to do with the block quote, the way the block quote is formatted. So I'll get that changed because I don't like that. In fact, what we can do, if we just make this one paragraph, then that will solve it for us. It's not ideal, but it's better than it looking a bit odd. Update view post. There we go. That looks much better. So our block quote is just slightly larger font than the normal text. And I've made this whole thing bold now so that that stands out as well. Okay, so let's carry on. So you can see there's a lot to do. If the formatting isn't right, then somebody's got to go through and fix all this stuff. So if you can get this right at the start when you're posting your content, it saves a lot of effort. Removing this one. Hopefully this is starting to become a bit obvious. I've done this for a while now. I'm not a WordPress expert, but I think if you do anything for long enough, then it becomes slightly second nature, and you can see the bits that need to be edited and which bits don't. So this is the same bit we keep removing. There's another header. There's another image. There's another header. There's another image. And this is, I'm going to make this a little bit clearer. You can learn more about the great. I'm putting this in full because this is our key. This is what I want it to make our key phrase. So it won't hurt. So you can learn more about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in the National Geographic. So this here, this is interesting. Somebody's used an ampersand here, by which I mean one of these. But that's actually a dangerous thing to use when you're using WordPress, because that's actually part of that's something that's used in code quite a lot. So if ever you're going to do and, the simplest thing is just to type and. There we go. I'm going to put this as a lower class of header, an H3, because this is basically a bit of a footer. I think that's fine. I won't put check out our website because we're already on it, but I will say feel free to contact Orca Scuba for dive courses and packages. Here, what we've done historically is we've linked to this email address, dive@orcascuba.com, but we don't want to do that anymore, so I'm going to remove that completely. Feel free to contact Orca Scuba for dive courses and packages. So I'm going to just highlight this part of text, do a link, and I'm going to link to our contact page where we've got a contact form, because this is where we want to drive people to ultimately. Okay, so that article is cleaned up, and as you can tell, that's taken, what, I don't know, half an hour, so a fair amount of work. But because while I'm at it, I'm going to sort out some of the other issues with the page. So looking over here, the readability needs improvement. To be honest, I'm not going to bother with that now because that might take some time. SEO unavailable. So let's have a look at the SEO. We've already said that Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a key phrase we want to be targeting. So I'm going to type that in here. And we can already see that there aren't that many issues with this. The slug for this page contains a stop word. I'm not too worried about that. The images on this page do not have alt attributes containing the focus keyword, and the SEO title is too short. Okay, so the images on the page, we are going to fix that, and the SEO title is too short. We can fix that. That's basically this part here, but I'm not too worried about that. That looks good, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Well, but maybe we'll change that slightly. Okay, so let's just edit here. How about Pacific Garbage Patch? Background and information. Orca Scuba. Don't know why that went orange, but let's see if that's improved things. There's no meta description either. So let's improve our meta description. So I'm going to just take some of this text. Take the first paragraph because that's pretty relevant. And then let's make a better description. So the Great Pacific Garbage Patch Okay, this circular motion draws in debris and traps it. So, Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a collection of floating garbage debris brought in and trapped by one of these gyres. So if I floating garbage debris, Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a collection There's a massive collection of floating garbage debris drawn in and trapped by one of the world's gyres. There we go, that'll do. Oh, look at that. So our SEO has improved a lot just by doing that. We've got a green light here. Readability needs improvement. We'll come back to that another time. Categories, we've already got one category selected, which is what we want. And we've got a lot of tags here. So what can we do? I think we can remove Asia. I think we're not going to use cleanup, especially not twice. Conservation is our category, so we don't need that as a tag. Garbage, yeah, that's quite a good tag. Although pollution is perhaps a better one, and so is plastic. So let's remove garbage, remove Malaysia, remove marine, ocean, oceans, orca. This is the orca scuba blog, so we don't need that. Pacific, yeah, we can keep that. That's quite specific about this blog. Pacific plastic pollution is probably all we need. So we've got 3 tags. We've got a featured image, perfect. So that's really all we need. So that has basically cleaned up our blog post. I haven't changed anything. I haven't changed the link. That's something we must avoid at all costs. Please don't ever change these links. And let's have a look. We'll just have a skim over visually to make sure that everything is looking okay. That looks good. Subtitles look nice. Our block quote looks nice. Cleanup efforts. Yep. Okay, I'm actually going to move this section under this title just to make that look a bit cleaner. And I've remembered that we don't have any alt tags on any of these, a Great Pacific Garbage Patch in any of our alt tags. So I am going to go back and edit that. That's one last change that I do want to make. Okay, so all I do is I go to the alt text here. So this is the code for the image. And if we look inside this code, you've got a section that says ALT equals. This is the alt text, and this is important in Google's eyes because it is also something that reflects the nature of the content. And here the alt text is probably what's just come straight out of Wikipedia, 900 by 600. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to replace that alt text with our keyword. Simply paste it in there. It's that simple. So if I update that, our SEO was already good, as you can see here, so it's going to stay good, I'm sure. But if I scroll down to the bottom, then you'll see that this is our SEO score, and we only have one problem. And it's a minor problem. It's orange rather than red. And what it is the slug for this page contains a stop word. Consider removing it. And that's the slug is the URL here, and the stop word is the. Stop words are things like the, and, in, of. Ideally, you would have a URL that didn't have the, but I'm not going to change that. As I said before, please don't change any URLs. If I change that, then that URL is what people are linking to, and the new one, nobody has any links to it. So anyone who links to our old page will just find that there's no page there anymore. Okay, and I said I'm just going to change the positioning of this text versus that title at the bottom of the page. So let me just put that in here. And there we have it. Okay. Let me just have a quick look at the readability. Is there something simple I can do to improve that? One of the paragraphs contains more than the recommended maximum 150 words. That's probably a fairly easy one to sort out. Let's just look for our big paragraph. It's probably this one. Okay, no, I don't want to fix that. Okay, that'll do. Thank you very much. If you could try and follow those instructions. I know it probably looks like a hell of a lot, but somebody's got to do it. So if you, when you're posting, if you can try and, oh, that's weird. Our image didn't post properly. Okay, let's see why that is. I'm going to re-add the image. Okay. I can see, hopefully everything is now looking pretty good. Okay, so you can see that's a lot of work there to sort out a post and make it SEO friendly and make sure that there's no weird formatting. So if you are writing blogs or if you're creating them, try and avoid Word and try and do a test in the text tab as well as just posting in the visual tab. So you can look at the visual tab fine, but have a look at the text tab as well. Thanks a lot, guys.